Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stripping away all that internet hyperbole and those viral memes to look at the true-to-life reality of Dracula simia. You probably know it as the monkey face orchid. We're going to look right past the sensationalism to understand the breathtaking, totally unexaggerated botanical science of how this remarkable plant actually survives in its natural habitat.
Let's just dive right into this misty, high-altitude world, shall we? What we're about to explore is a poetic reality that unfolds biologically, without a single pixel of CGI or artificial enhancement. We're taking a true-to-life, documentary-style look at the genuine textures, the natural colors, and the incredibly complex life cycle of a species that literally looks like it was pulled straight out of a fantasy novel.
So, picture yourself in a cool, humid mountain rainforest. Specifically, we're in the Zamora-Chinchipe province of Ecuador, stretching a bit into Peru. Imagine a deeply shaded environment, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,500 meters above sea level. Here, this gentle morning fog is just continuously drifting through a dense, low canopy. Soft rain falls, water droplets cling to the vegetation, and the sunlight, well, it's heavily filtered by the time it reaches the branches. This strictly cool and dim environment is the absolute baseline required for our orchid to even exist.
Now, the really crucial point here is that our orchid begins its life not in the dirt, but as an epiphyte. A tiny, virtually microscopic seed naturally settles onto a damp, moss-covered tree branch high above the forest floor. And it doesn't act as a parasite or anything, it just uses the tree as a harmless, secure anchor. It derives literally every drop of moisture and every single nutrient it needs entirely from the humid air, the constant rainfall, and the decaying debris trapped right there in the canopy moss.
If we were to watch a time-lapse of this delicate progression over a year in the wild, it's pretty amazing. First, over the course of about 3 months, you'd see these fine, delicate root systems slowly webbing their way through the moss. Then, by month 6, rigid, light green grass-like leaves begin to emerge, growing in this compact little fan shape. And finally, right around the 1-year mark, a single, stout flower stalk begins to gradually descend. It actually grows downwards, hanging below the plant rather than up towards the sky.
Physically speaking, this plant's survival strategy is absolutely fascinating. Notice how it completely lacks that typical water-storing bulb, the pseudobulb, that so many other orchids use to survive dry spells. Because it evolved in a cloud forest where the mist is just relentless, it doesn't need one. It simply relies on its spongy, grass-like leaves to soak up the ambient humidity. The whole plant stays incredibly compact, usually only hitting about 6 to 12 inches tall, and spreads via short, creeping rhizomes.
And when the bud on that descending stalk finally opens, wow, it reveals this astonishing photorealistic bloom measuring up to 6 inches across. When you get a macro close-up of this flower, the natural botanical textures are just incredible. It's a massive, fleshy blossom hanging downwards, completely at home in that damp shade.
Now you might be wondering about its scientific name. Botanist Carlisle Luer established the genus name Dracula back in 1978, and Dracula literally translates to little dragon. Looking at it, you can see exactly why it earned that name, right? The bloom features 3 massive fused sepals covered in fine white hairs and these maroon-red spots. But crucially, those sepals taper into long, dark, fang-like tails that can reach up to 2 inches long. It gives the whole thing a distinctly vampire or dragon-like silhouette.
But let's be honest, the genus name isn't what made this flower globally famous. It's the species name, simia, meaning monkey. When we look at the arrangement of those 2 small, dark inner petals and the pinkish, cup-shaped lip at the bottom, we immediately see a monkey's face staring right back at us. But it is so vital to understand that this is totally due to pareidolia. That's just a quirk in human psychology, where our brains forcefully recognize faces in random patterns. Trust me, the plant is not actually trying to look like a monkey.
In fact, if we compare what we see to what the plant's actual target sees, the story becomes wildly fascinating. To us, it's just an adorable coincidence. But this plant has evolved entirely to deceive its primary pollinator, the common fungus gnat. From the gnat's perspective, that pinkish, cup-shaped lip, the part we see as a monkey's mouth, looks exactly like an irresistible, fleshy, gilled mushroom. It's a perfect botanical forgery, basically designed to offer a fake fungal meal and a false mating ground. To really understand how good this deception is, let's look at a brilliant study published in the journal New Phytologist by researchers at the University of Oregon. They actually used 3D printed silicone flowers to test exactly what was fooling these flies. When they presented just the visual structure of the gilded lip using odorless silicone, the gnats were, only mildly attracted. But the moment they added the orchid's unique volatile chemicals, which perfectly mimic the rich scent of a specific localized mushroom, bam, the gnats were irresistibly drawn in. It is a masterful, dual-layered deception.
So this evolutionary trickery sets off a flawless 4-part biological sequence. Step 1, the scent. The fungus gnat detects that rich mushroom odor drifting through the damp canopy air. Step 2, the landing. The insect touches down directly on the cup-shaped gilled lip, totally expecting a meal. Step 3, the trap. As it crawls around looking for food, wads of pollen, known as pollinia, physically stick to the gnat's back. And step 4, the departure. The gnat leaves completely unrewarded, only to fly off and fall for the exact same ruse on another blossom, successfully transferring the pollen. Pretty clever, right?
But surviving in the wild to pull off this trick is a very delicate balancing act. The monkey face orchid is notoriously fragile outside of its native ecosystem. It requires strictly cool temperatures. We're talking between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, dropping even cooler at night. On top of that, it demands a constant relative humidity of 70 to 90%, alongside constant gentle air movement. If it's exposed to direct sunlight, or if the air dries out even slightly, the plant will rapidly decline. Honestly, it is incredibly difficult for humans to replicate this without a highly specialized climate-controlled greenhouse.
And there's a very good reason for that intense requirement for airflow. If the environment shifts and the roots remain soggy without proper circulation, the plant faces a severe, grim natural threat from disease, specifically a fungus called rhizoctonia. This pathogen thrives in moist, poorly aerated conditions, and it leads to a deadly root rot. It basically turns the orchid's delicate roots mushy and completely black, effectively cutting off its ability to absorb water and ultimately killing the plant.
This really highlights why its evolutionary identity as a tree-dwelling epiphyte is absolutely its greatest defense. If this orchid tried to grow down in the ground soil, the dense dirt would trap excess moisture, choke off the airflow, and rapidly invite that fatal root rot. But up high in the canopy, the airy moss retains a constant, gentle dampness while allowing the vital wind to circulate right through the root system. It's the perfect protection from disease.
As we wrap up our exploration of this botanical masterpiece, we're really left to marvel at the bizarre, fragile, and utterly beautiful reality of natural evolution. Yes, the monkey face is a super charming quirk of human psychology, but the true masterpiece here is the biology beneath it. A plant that survives on mist, grows upside down in the shaded canopy, and perfectly mimics a mushroom just to trick a fly. It leaves us with a pretty compelling question to chew on. Is the true wonder of this orchid the face we project onto it, or the brilliant, unexaggerated deception it perfected to survive in the wild?